So welcome back guys to We Talk Boxing, and today I'm going to be talking about a fight which took place last weekend on the undercard of the Liam Davis versus Shabazz Masood fight, which was the main event. And this fight was between Ekow Essuman versus Ben Vaughan. Now, a lot of you guys who listen to my channel and other boxing channels may not know who Ekow Essuman is. Um, but I've watched Ekow's fights a few times, and yeah, he's got something. He's just on the wrong side of 30s, so he's getting on now. But Ekow Essuman is a good name, and obviously I'll explain a little bit more about like where he's been, who he's fought, and his record, etc. But Ben Vaughan is as well his opponent, who he took on. Never heard of him. But he performed very, very well on the night, and it was a very good competitive fight between both guys. Ben Vaughan is considered the young prospect in terms of coming up in the British welterweight ranks, whereas Ekow Essuman is more of a senior, looked as more of a fighter who potentially could retire in the next couple of fights. But anyhow, getting to the both fighters, very very good competitive fight between both, as I mentioned earlier. The scorecards kind of reflected that as well. Um, both there was two judges out of the three which scored the fight to Ekow Essuman. One scored in 97-94, one scored in 97-93, and the third judge, which was a British judge, all three were as well, scored it a draw 95-95. But yeah, very very good competitive fight for the WBO European welterweight belt, which would give now Ekow Essuman a good ranking as well. Even though he was ranked prior to this fight in the WBO rankings, it will hopefully push him up in terms of the ranking next month. But in terms of the fight, Vaughan obviously suffered a cut and some swelling in both eyes throughout the fight. So he was struggling through that, and at one point I thought that his actual corner was gonna pull him out of the fight. But yeah, very good competitive fight and potentially fight of the year. And it was quite weird because during the commentary, the commentators mentioned that Ekow Essuman's fight before the Ben Vaughan fight was up there for fight of the year as well. And that was against a guy called Owen Cooper, who I've never heard of as well. But that was back in July this year. Um, and yeah, it was a 10 rounder. Again, meant to be fight of the year. Absolutely storm buster. So at some point I'll be watching that on YouTube as well. But yeah, very good competitive fight. For those that didn't watch it on the weekend, I definitely and highly recommend that you do, because if you're looking for all-out action, and a good clash of styles, and in terms of both guys not retreating, then this is the sort of fight that you want to watch. But in terms of Ekow Essuman, I mentioned earlier that he has been around for a while. He's 35 years of age. He's an orthodox fighter, 5'10", who fights in the welterweight division. He's from Nottingham originally, and in terms of BoxRec, they have him as the sixth best British welterweight fighter. Conor Benn's obviously number one. Then you got Lewis Crocker, Harlem Eubank, Michael McKinson. Harry Scarf is the number five, who Ekow Essuman lost to in his only loss on his record. And that was, when was that? That was, let me have a look on BoxRec. That was in November last year, where Ekow Essuman lost in a 12th round unanimous decision. That was for the British, Commonwealth, and IBF European welterweight titles as well. So yeah, the only loss on Ekow Essuman's record to date. Harry Scarf obviously went on, and according to BoxRec, he fought in May this year against a Karen Chukwenhezid, butchered his name, whoever the guy is, but he's a German fighter, lost on a unanimous 12 round decision. So yeah, so he suffered his first loss, and I'm guessing that was a fight to move him up and see how he could compete against some of the world's best fighters as well in that division. But in terms of Ekow Essuman, I mentioned that he is on the older side of 30, he's 35 years of age, so he needs to kind of get his career pushing if he wants to challenge for a world title. And it's good that obviously he's staying active by fighting quite regular, but he's taking on young up and coming decent opponents who can potentially cause him a banana skin slip, because he can lose to these guys as well. And that fight against Ben Vaughan was very, very close, and it could have went either way. And if it would have got scored to Ben Vaughan, then most people probably wouldn't have said anything really, because it was that close in terms of a fight. But Ekow has come out and said that he wants a world title. Now he's currently 21 wins in 22 fights with 8 KOs to his record. As I mentioned a moment ago, he's only suffered that one loss to Harry Scarf, and he's only ranked in the WBO at number 9, and that was on the 15th of October. So hopefully, when the new rankings come out, that will probably push him up a few places as well. But currently, the champion for the WBO is a Brian Norman Jr. He's currently undefeated in 26 fights. So, in terms of Ekow Essuman potentially challenging someone like a Brian Norman Jr., it's probably unlikely in his next fight. Only because he'd probably have to take on a bigger name and potentially beat that bigger name. And a bigger name that he could potentially fight could be the guy that Harry Scarf lost to, the Ukrainian Karen Chukwanese, whatever his name is. He's currently number 4 in the WBO rankings. So if he goes in there against someone like him and beats that guy, then that will push him up even further, and then he would definitely be knocking on the door of the WBO, providing that Brian Norman Jr. guy doesn't have a unification fight with one of the other 3 welterweight champions. And the other 3 welterweight champions, as we know, one of them is the main man in the division, Jaron Boots Ennis, sorry. We've got a Mario Barrios, and then we've got another guy called Stanionis as well, who's a WBA champion as well. So yeah, 2 of the 4 well, I should say 3 of the 4, Barrios, Stanionis, and Ennis Boots. I've heard of those guys quite a bit. So obviously, I wouldn't give Ekow Essuman a chance against any of those 3, not disrespecting him. But Brian Jr., I don't know a lot about him, so that could be the way to go. That could be the way to maybe try and challenge for a world title. But he certainly, from my point of view, needs to take on a bigger name in the division before that fight could potentially be made. But yeah, just thought I'd make a video because yeah, the fight was very, very competitive, very, very entertaining, and I'm not sure, if he got the publicity as much as what most people probably would have seen or heard, really, because I haven't really heard much about it since. But yeah, as I said, worth the while, worth the watch. 10 rounds, excellent fight. But yeah, let me know your thoughts if you do watch it. Give me your thoughts in regards to what you thought about the fight, and obviously, was you happy with the decision? And again, if you're, into the welterweight scene, who would you like maybe Ekow Essuman to maybe take on? Yeah, as always, please subscribe and comment. Bless.